Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dimensional Wellness. This is DeeDee, and I'm so glad to be here with you guys, exchanging some energy. Okay, today I was actually just listening to this woman. I absolutely love listening to her on YouTube. Her name is Spiritual Sag, and she was just putting out this reading about people being invited to a mystery school. So I thought it would be fun to talk about my dream where I, in fact, did attend like a magical college. And I've actually had a few dreams being in this magical college, not lately, because the last dream, which is the one I'm going to talk about, I knew that was like my last semester until I was like out in the real world. So it was like I was going to be graduating from that. Okay, so I'm going to set this up like this, okay? So my first kind of introduction into this was Ray actually having a dream that he saw me in a parallel reality. Okay, so that's a dream I'm going to talk about at another time when I want to get into parallel lives, because I have had dreams of parallel lives of myself, like as in this version of DeeDee. I have also seen other versions of my soul stream that are in bodies that do not look like me. I've had quite a few dreams about parallel lives, and that's a lot to talk about. And have some theories on parallel lives and things like that. I've also had dreams, which I don't know if I've talked about that yet, but I've also had dreams with this red heifer sacrifice that's going to be going on in 2024, which is going to be crazy because, of course, they're going to be building the third temple, which I think a lot of these wars that are going on in the Middle East are about this, because, you know, it's like one thing when, you know, two people are like fighting over this land and like, you know, the thought of the Messiah is still kind of up in the air, but they have what they need for them to build this third temple, but they need to, like, somebody needs to solidify the land so that they can actually build it. So I do not think that, you know, like, obviously I'm not wishing for it to get worse, but I don't think that it's going to get better because they already have what they need to actually start building the third temple. Like, and it's going to come down to sacrificing this red heifer, which is a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother part of reality, because that goes into the, of course, Panorama Damu, which is the sacrifice of this red cow, which I believe has Egyptian and African origins, when Moses was out there in the wilderness, in the desert for those 40 years. And that's where this ritual comes from. Which also I personally believe is connected to the Lakota tribe in the white buffalo calf woman who shapeshifts into 4 different type of cow buffaloes. One of them would be the red cow, and she's the one that gave the Lakota people the peace pipe, which that's a lot to talk about. It's a lot to talk about. But anyways, let me get back to what we're talking about today. Okay, let me get back to what we're talking about today, because everything has all these different branches and you can like go into all these different, you know, realities and stuff like that. Oh goodness. Okay, so let's get back to, before we get into parallel realities, but I was bringing that up to say that I've also seen connected to that where I was able to actually bring people back from a parallel life to this reality who had died, and I helped them to come back to reality for like 2 weeks to like talk to their loved ones, and it had to do with this third temple and this red heifer. So I'm gonna have to talk about that later, but I'm just saying I've seen a lot to do with Mandela effects and all different type of stuff. Like right now I feel like I'm in the works of like actually working on a Mandela effect happening. So when that happens, we'll talk about that. But that definitely has to do with Mortimer Mouse. Okay, let me take some more of my drink. Okay, I'm drinking, Starbucks has their yummy Christmas flavors. Oh my gosh, they have the caramel brulee, and it is so delicious. Yum, 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 yum. Okay. Okay, so let's get into this. So that I was just saying that's the first time that I had come across this sort of magic school. And when he was telling me the dream in my mind, I was seeing that it was some type of magic school. He could have said that, but I don't remember if he said it. And then that's when I got the first introduction that I was connected into Saraswati. So that was kind of my first introduction into that. And then there's another guy that I end up listening to, Unite the Collective on YouTube, Rion. And he was talking about getting your fourth dimensional self into magic school, pretty much. And at the time, this was after. So he had the dream about parallel life, and then I found Rion's channel, and Rion was talking about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so crazy, because we've had some type of experience like that about this magic school. Anyways, then of course, wait, hold on. Was this before I watched The Magicians or after I watched The Magicians? I think I had this after I watched The Magicians, I believe. Yeah, because I remember being like, this school like reminds me of Break Bills. So I watched the first season of The Magicians, which I don't necessarily recommend watching it because it's very risque. It's like definitely not for kids. I don't really recommend it. But with that said, oh look, 133. I saw 133 on the card. That's my lottery numbers. With that said, the premise of the show is so on point as far as what the show is talking about. Like, I really wish that I could recommend it, because overall, through like all the really crazy stuff that's on there, the basis of the show and the first season is like exactly life. I mean, all the crazy stuff that's on there too is also life, which is unfortunately, sad. It's sad. But it's such a good premise in general as far as talking about parallel lives, and how all of the people that we're connected to are in some type of way connected to us. And there are certain relationships and certain movements and decisions that really impact everyone as a whole. And also it plays on predestination versus free will. And so that part of it is really spot on. It's really on point. So anyways, we're going to talk about, the last dream that I had about this magic school, which was definitely a while ago. I'm trying to think about, okay, so there was a friend and we were planning a trip together. So this was in 2018. So around this time, there's a friend and we were planning a trip together to go out of state together to California. And I think something happened with her job or work or something like that. And when I called her about this trip, because we were supposed to be like meeting up at the airport like that week, when I tried to call her about the trip, she just like didn't answer the phone. And so, but I know how like humans are now. That's funny. I know how people are now, where like, if they feel like they're disappointing you, or they just don't know how to feel about the trip, people like just don't answer the phone. It's very strange, but it's a thing. So anyway, she was one of the people that did this too. We're supposed to be going on a trip together to California. And I kept asking her, and I don't know, maybe sometimes I make people nervous with my questions. But, I was asking her, I was like, did you take off time for work? Is everything okay? Like, are you thinking about not going? Let's just communicate on what's going on. Anyways, there's no communication. I had no clue. And so this was the night before we were supposed to take the trip, which was, I'm pretty sure it was July 2018. So this dream happened July 2018. Hold on, wait, let me think about this. May. Yeah, because I had Ace May. Yeah, I think it was July or August. It could have been closer to her birthday in August. Anyways, it was around this time. So August 2018. So So in this dream, I ended up in this huge mall. Okay. And so in the dream, me and her had actually taken the trip. No, that's not true. Okay. So at the beginning of this dream, me and this friend were at the airport, and I was calling her on the phone to see if she was going to meet me at the airport. And pretty much I ended up seeing her, but she was like walking around a mall instead. Like, I waited at the airport for like a period in time and I didn't see her. So I decided, let me get the story straight, because I feel like I'm telling it confusingly. Okay, because I'm also remembering it as I'm saying it, because I actually forgot that this was even the first part of it. And I actually saw this woman in this dream connected to T.I., and it was like some weird stuff about her being like barely legal. And then I saw her connected to the Minoan snake woman, which was very interesting. Anyways, okay, so what happened was in this dream, I ended up at the airport, and I was calling her to see where she was, if she was going to meet me. So I had my bags and everything. I was waiting for the, her to go through, when they look at your ID and birth certificate and stuff like that, the check-in, kind of thing. And then you go to the back to actually go to the portals. The portals. Is that what they call them? Portals? Did they call them portals? What do they call them? Where you go wait for your actual airplane. Whatever. I was waiting for her to go through. And I didn't want to go by myself. Like, the trip was already paid for. I didn't want to go by myself. So anyways, I remember I sat in there for a while and I was calling her. And I was like, so it was the morning time. I was like, okay, I'm going to call her until lunch. And then if she doesn't respond by lunch, I'm just going to leave it alone. Because even I've dealt with enough people to where, like, I'm not even upset about those things anymore. Even, like, if I lose out on money or whatever, I'm just like, okay, I guess for whatever reason, me and this person are not supposed to be going on this trip together. And, life has a way of bringing things around to where you later down the line or whatever, figure out why it wasn't working out. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait until lunchtime. If she doesn't call me back by lunch, then I'm just going to forget about it and go do something else. So she didn't call me back by lunch. And so that's what I did. I took my bags and I ended up going. I ended up staying in New Orleans because that's where we were. I ended up staying in New Orleans and I ended up going to one of the malls in New Orleans. Now, when I went to the mall in New Orleans, I saw her walking around the mall. And so I was like, wow, you're in the mall, but you couldn't answer my calls. We were supposed to be going on the trip. So she gave me like a, whole reason as to why she didn't go or whatever. And I really didn't care because I was like, you could have just told me you didn't want to go. And you could have just come to the mall or whatever. Like, you didn't have to like lie and not answer the phone. You know what I'm saying? Just like weird behavior. I don't know. So anyways, I was just like, okay. So anyways, I was just like, whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'll talk to you later, I guess. So I walked away, and that's when I ended up taking a flight. Now, I didn't go back to the airport. I just know that it was almost like in the middle of this mall area, I ended up taking a flight. And I know that I had the choice. After the flight landed, it still looked like I was still in the mall. It was very trippy. It looked like I was still in the mall. And there was an opportunity for me to get on this trolley that was like in the middle of the mall. It was so weird. And so I was like, you know what? I don't know where I'm going anyway. And clearly it ain't to California. So let's just see where the trolley takes me. So I got on this trolley with my luggage, and everybody was looking at me like, why is this girl in the mall with her luggage? Like, this is not an airport, because I had like 2 bags with me, right? So I get on the trolley, and the next thing I know, I kid you not, I literally wake up in a bed. And like, I know that I'm in school, and I know that I'm broke. College type of broke. I'm in a college or whatever. And I know that I have like an important event for one of my classes that day. So I wake up, I get out of bed, I go over to like my dresser, and I'm like rummaging through, and I didn't wash clothes. But I know that this is kind of like finals week, or it's the week leading up to finals. Okay. And so I'm rummaging through, and I just like throw on something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I still don't have clothes. I'm like such in a college energy right now. So I put on my clothes or whatever like that. And I go to this part of campus, and we're like in class together. Okay. Not me and this girl. Like this girl, like that's the last I saw her in this dream. Like I just left and went somewhere else in the mall. But I'm talking about just the other kids in my class at this magic university. We all went to our class, okay? So as I was in the class, I realized that there was 2 guys in the class that I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew them, okay? Which in this life, in waking reality, I did know them. But in the dream, it was like a remembrance of them, but I couldn't quite put my finger on how I knew them outside class. I just couldn't remember it. And we weren't really like, buddy in this class. Like I didn't really know them in this class. So I knew it wasn't from school, but I had a remembrance of them though. Like I know them. So anyways, I was, kind of in the back of class, and this teacher was going over like our kind of final assignment. So in this class, we were some type of Ghostbuster journalist. Okay? And so we would go around to different places around the U.S., and we would do journalism write-ups on the energy of places around the U.S., to let them know, like, this is a really haunted place. You shouldn't go to this place, blah, 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 or whatever, so that they would know what to expect, okay? So anyways, so our final, so to speak, in this class was not a test, but it was, like, going to like one of the most haunted places on earth or something like that. And I knew it was like some weird pyramid shaped mosaic glass churches in Utah. Okay. And I could see it in my mind's eye, and I could actually see how haunted it was. I could actually see like there was this big old huge like black shadow thing that was like just like hanging out on top of the church. And there was like thunderstorms and all different type of stuff. And I remember thinking like, I'm not about to go to this. So you didn't necessarily have to go to it, but that was the quote unquote easiest way to finish out, was to go and do a journalism piece on this, And so the next thing I know, we're kind of like shifted forward, and we're in this mall again. Okay. And so, wait, no, I'm skipping ahead. So we kind of skip ahead some type of way, and now we're like to the day where we are all getting on a bus and we are going to this place, okay? And so we're like literally driving on this bus, and everybody has, we have all our gear, spirit boxes, everything that we need to like do the whole shebang or whatever. Everybody has their notebooks. We're already taking notes because everybody's already getting, intuitive impressions and things like that before we get there. And it's like a long trip from wherever we were, because I don't actually know specifically where this magic school was. I actually don't know. But if I had to guess, for some reason, Washington, D.C. is coming up. So anyways, so as we're driving there, me and one of the guys that, like I said, I felt a remembrance with, we kind of look at each other like, are we about to do this? And I shook my head, and it was like instinctual. Like I just shook my head, and he turned around, and it was almost like we had like an unconscious communication of like, yeah, we not about to do this. So the next thing you know, they pulled over, and that's when we all ended up in this mall. So they pulled over to this mall to like get a break before we started riding, to Utah, right? And so as we're in the mall, I thought to myself, and I was like, I really could just like pretend like I got lost in the mall and just find myself not on on the bus. And then when they call to see where I am, be like, oh, I'll just get a ride back to the school. I'm not going to go. Because I'd already scoped out the place like through remote viewing or whatever. And I was just like, I'm not about to have this thing attached to me. Like, I'm not about to... I'm not going to go do that. I'm just not going to do it. So that's what I did. I was in the mall. They called me and I was like, oh, I'll just get a ride back and I'll just take the other assignment. It's fine. So the next thing I know, I remembered that I had like $20 on me, right? So I'm still a college student, don't have a whole lot of money or whatever. And I'm like, thinking that like I really need some more clothes, and there's a Forever 21. So I'm like, I could go into Forever 21 since we're in a mall. But then I saw this Piccadilly's. Now I used to eat at Piccadilly's when I was little all the time. It was very fond memories. And then if you are from Alabama or have lived in Alabama, you know that they also have Morrison's, which is pretty much Piccadilly's. But they had a Piccadilly's in there. And so I'm like, let me go into Piccadilly's, because I'm like, I could go eat or I could go get me like some leggings, something like that. I'm like, let me go eat. So I go in there and it's full of people and it's full of a lot of families. I remember that, full of a lot of families. And when I get in there, it's so funny because like there's like a lot of people in front of me, but there is the guy from from the bus that I knew from school, and he also decided with his brother to like get off the bus and just not go. So I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. So anyways, I see them and I wave because we, in this setting and total strangers, like we acknowledge each other. I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're far away from me, so I didn't get to really talk to them, but I saw them and we acknowledged each other. So I'm like, okay, cool. So as I'm in the Piccadilly's line, I'm getting closer to where you get your tray and you order and stuff like that. All of a sudden, I have this urge that I need to go into my backpack. Now, the whole time, I don't even remember having this backpack, but I had a backpack on my back the whole time. And I think it's like an urge to like just make sure that I have more money in case it was more than $20. And so I stepped out of the line and I found a little table where nobody was sitting at, and I start rummaging through my backpack, right? So I'm rummaging through the backpack and the backpack totally spills on the ground, and all of a sudden there's all this money in it. And I am freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, where did all of this money come from? I was freaking out, and I was really freaking out because, like in New Orleans, people would have been stealing that money and taking it. So I was like, I didn't even know all this money was in here. So I'm like grabbing it off the ground. I mean, it was flying everywhere and everything. It was bananas. I'm like, what? So I'm like grabbing all this money. I'm trying to put it back in my backpack. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like wondering if it's actually my money, because I didn't remember having all this money in my backpack. I'm like, whose backpack is this? But I'm like, it has to be mine because it's been on my back the whole time. I just didn't know that there was money in it. So eventually I realized that like nobody is worried about the money. Like nobody. It's like all these families and they're with their kids, and like nobody is worried about the money. So all of a sudden, like as I'm like slowing down and being more meticulous, and I'm like, nobody's trying to take it, just put the money in your backpack, you're good. This woman comes up and she starts handing me the money, and so I'm like, oh, thank you, and everything like that. And she hands me like 2 or 3 packs of different tarot cards. And so I'm like, oh, these aren't mine. She's like, oh yeah, these are yours. I'm like, no, I don't think these are mine. And she's like, no, these are definitely yours. And so I'm like pushing them to her. I'm like, I think they're yours. And she's like, no, they're yours. And I'm pushing them to her. I'm like, no, I think they're yours. And so as I'm really looking at her, I know that I remember her. Like, and this is a very deep remembrance. Like, and I sat there and I was staring at her for so long, and I was like, what is your name? I was like, you were my teacher before. You taught me. And she was like, yes, I taught you before. Yes. And she was like, take these tarot cards because they are for you. These are yours to have and to use. And so I'm like, okay. And she was talking to me and she was like filling me up. She was like, you're doing a good job, blah, 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 blah. Like, not blah, 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 like it wasn't important, but, I just can't remember it right now. So that's what it's looking like in my head. She's talking, I don't know what she's saying. And so, but I know that she was filling me up, she was like, you're doing a good job. She was like, I'm proud of you. Like, I've taught you a lot. And she was like, you're always a good student to me, one of my favorites. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who is? And I kept saying Baba, but I could not remember like the rest of it. I'm like, what is her name? And so she was like, you don't have to remember her right now. We know each other. And when she said we know each other, that's when I remembered that like our relationship to each other was much more than just like mentor student. It was like a family relationship. And so it wasn't important for me to like remember every single detail in this moment to be like, no, like I really remember you, because we established like a heart-centered connection to each other. And like she wasn't tripping that I didn't remember her in that moment, because once I did remember, we would just like, start off where we left off. We finished our lives together or whatever, in that sense, like on a good note. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if I were to reincarnate with my kids and like I remember them and we're like friends in the next lifetime, because DeeDee is not coming back and having kids, like period. Like I'm really not trying to come back. I'm really not trying to come back in a body at all, right? Because, I have kids, and so we're going to have a lineage, so I'm going to come back in some capacity. But if some type of way I get the brochure, I get the call, and I get tricked to, having a body again, I am not having kids, period. Like, I'm not getting the kid special. Anyway, so we come back as like, best friends or whatever like that. And we just like travel and stuff, like the 5 best friends. And then my husband, he's going to have to come back as a woman too. So, or we'll both come back as men. We can just all come back as men and just like never have kids or something. Ooh, excuse me. Excuse me, it's 10:12 when I said that. And like they don't remember that we have a past life together, like I was their mom in a past life. Like I'm totally not gonna be tripping like that. They don't remember me. Like it's not that big of a deal. So anyways, that was like the vibe. So she was like, you don't have to remember me, like, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm around and you're doing a good job. So I'm like, wow. So then that's when I woke up from the dream. And when I woke up from the dream, I was so irritated. So I was like, it's Baba Yaga. It's Baba Yaga. Like your mentor was Baba Yaga. And I have to say, like, hate to spoil the party for people who like love to think about everything as a demon. But she did not eat kids. That's like one of those weird stories that like adults tell you. And sometimes you have grandparents that kind of like go along with it, like what's an example? Like the little boy who cried wolf, and it's like, if you lie, there's gonna be a wolf that comes and eats you and nobody's gonna know. It's kind of like that. Like that was like a story of a spirit that actually exists, that they're like, she eats little kids that are bad, and then she might come and scare them, into like behaving. Not a good strategy, but definitely doesn't eat kids. Not a thing. And also there's something actually really, really deep, which is connected to the story of Medusa, of course, and also Humbaba, the dragon, I think, that was protecting the treasures in Lebanon in the cedar forest, which is also connected to, I believe, the best face in Egypt. There's something about like some type of sisterhood or brotherhood or co-edhood or something, where they have scary visages in order to scare away people who are not pure of heart. And that is the, how do you say it? The story of like shallow how. Like if you're not of pure heart, then you will be scared away by scary appearances or ugliness or dirtiness or whatever. But if you're pure of heart, and even if you're scared, but you are pure of heart and you have good intentions, then if you can get past your fear, past your scariness, and still commit to helping out, you know, the same concept of like Jesus coming as a homeless man. If you can get past that and you're really pure of heart and you really genuinely want to help, then as you commit to the process, there's a commitment. Okay? If you understand relationship to human beings, which translates into marriages, love relationships, but also friendships, there's a level of commitment. So if you commit to it over time, then they begin to show you their beauty, right? Then they begin to take off the mask of being frightening, and you are shown their beauty. And then when you see the beauty, you understand why they hide the beauty. Because people like to trap beautiful things. They like to covet beautiful things. They like to own beautiful things. And then some people are crazy enough to where if they can't own it or trap it or keep it entrapped, they harm it, right? And we know plenty of stories like that. So it's one of those type of situations. And don't even get me started on like the Lilith dark mother concept. And oh gosh, that's not what it seems like now. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to get into that right now. But pretty much that's what that whole situation is about. So Baba Yaga was a very loving energy. And I will say that there's definitely some type of connection between her and Baba Vanga. There's definitely a connection between Baba Yaga and Baba Vanga. Big connection there. Okay. So yeah, I thought that would be interesting to talk about. I haven't really seriously considered ghost busting, just primarily because like I just don't have the training for that. But QHHT, from what I have been reading up on and setting up on, is definitely pretty close to it. If we don't actually end up doing like full on exorcisms and stuff of energies in people's consciousness. So it's very interesting how things have kind of materialized from that over time. So yeah, I thought that'd be interesting to talk about today. Make sure that you do all the fun things that we do here on YouTube, which is like, comment, subscribe, share, heavy on the commenting. Make sure you share it with a friend. Come back and see me. Bye.